Hi,
Hi, Isabel.
how are you doing?
Very good. And you?
Very good, very good. So I wanted to thank you for wanting to share your wisdom with us tonight.
It's my honor and privilege to be here with you, Isabel. Thank you for having me over.
Well, thanks very much. So, you have a very interesting background, and as I told you, a lot of people on my channel are from all over the world. So, whenever I can have a guest like you who made it to Switzerland, it's always interesting. So, why don't you share a little bit about yourself and maybe give a few hopeful tips for people who want to do the Swiss dream?
Yeah. So let me start with my a little bit about myself. I come from India, so that's where I was born. Um, by let's say education, I'm an engineer. I'm a mechanical engineer, and I did my master's in business administration from India. So that's my educational background. I'm engineer and MBA. From a professional background, I started my career in automotive sector, and then I moved to do my MBA. And after that, I went into consulting. So I did strategy consulting with in US and in Southeast Asia, India, before coming to Switzerland. And now I work in Switzerland with a Fortune 100 company, a large CPG company, and I am into product innovation and growth. Uh, but that's not, I think, a definition of me. But as an individual, I believe that I'm a driven individual. I love to solve problems. I like to, make connections in different things or aspects, whether it's life, work, or in at large. Um, I I tend to believe that I'm a possibilist, and what do I mean is that I am not an optimist, right? But I'm a possibilist, meaning that looking at the past trends or the changes which are happening, what can we how the future can evolve. So I believe in being, let's say, making things possible, and I'm an all-time learner, always uh, ready to learn something new, and yeah, I think that's what defines me as an individual. So that's about me. uh the second part of your question was, how can people aspire to, let's say, do more global roles, right? Is that
Exactly.
fair?
Yeah.
Okay. So, Isabel, honestly, in my case, I think we spoke about it, but in my case, my move to Switzerland happened very serendipitously. So, I was inquired by an executive search, and I went through interviews, and I came here. But I think, but still, in my last part of my career, I was consulting clients which were largely global clients, and a lot of them in US, in Singapore, in Hong Kong, etc. So I always had this an opportunity and also bent of mind to work with teams from different cultures, different geographies. And when this opportunity came, it was, let's say, an addition to my previous experience. Europe being a very culturally, let's say, uh, very evolved as a continent, with rich history, with rich culture, with rich literature, arts, and lot more, which defines a human expression. So it was essentially an opportunity, and I grabbed it because it helped me build my story and my journey. So So that was, I think, for me. But if I have to advise, or let's say my 2 cents, not an advice, but my 2 cents to people who are aspiring for a global career, uh, I would suggest that uh, definitely there are three ways, right? One is that uh, these days all the roles by most of the big companies are put on LinkedIn or on their career websites. So that's at least one way to keep a track on what kind of roles are coming up and what kind of roles are even eligible for international candidates, because most of the roles, they mention that it's mentioned that, if they will sponsor a visa or not. So at least that gives you a starting point. And once you understand that, okay, maybe in, for example, in Netherlands, I know a lot of people who come and join more tech companies like booking.com, and there are a couple more companies where my friend Miro, one of my friend, has joined. So I think, so having that understanding truly helps. And then is the next stage where you can connect with people in those geographic locations, or executive search consultants, recruiters, and even some of the hiring managers. So that's definitely has become a lot more visible to a general audience. But it helps that if you really know what you're searching for, and which companies you're looking for, what kind of geographies you're looking for, and why you're looking for. I think if that understanding is is largely clear, then I think it can help you make the next move or next step in the right direction. It's also a bit of opportunity meets preparation, right? So that's something someone defined luck as opportunity meets preparation. So if you know the opportunity and you're prepared for it, and you get the segue in, then at least you have a start to explore in that direction. But also with the pandemic, I think one thing which I have observed is that you can still do a global role while being in your own location, because a lot of companies and a lot of roles these days are okay to be serviced from a location which is remote or from your home. So you get to work on a, let's say, in a role which is not from your geographic location. However, you can service it from there, and there are benefits around it. So one of my friend I know who was serving for a company in US, a pharma company in US, while being in India, and was even being paid a US salary. So if that is your aspiration and ambition, I think the with the advent of internet and social media and so many things, I think with the availability of information, knowledge, if you know what you're looking for, I think you can find a way to create it. Sorry for such a long answer, but I think that's what I've seen in a couple of instances, how you can maximize your global exposure. Uh,
No, but I think you're right with now the hybrid workplace and different possibilities that the world, in a way, has become definitely more flexible, and human resources, individuals also work on that right now and trying to find those flex options. So there's definitely possibilities that didn't exist before. So this is great news for international talent for sure.
Yeah, and sorry, just one more addition, right? Like we are becoming more and more a talent economy, right? So I would want to share that as well with the audience, is that if you know what value you can bring to which industry, in which function, or in process, and how do you drive and create that value, nowadays companies are looking for that talent. So we are moving into a talent economy. I mean, and it is only going to increase. It's not going to decrease. So knowing about your own skills and what value you bring to the to business, to corporates, to social, setups. I think the more you are clear, the better, the network can find you.
Exactly. So work on your skill set and make sure that's visible as well. That's why it's important to use social media also to make the skills visible and attract the right companies, so to say. So what I liked about you when we spoke before doing the streaming is that, and I really admire that in general, is the fact that you're such a philosophical, wise type of a person. And I think in our Western cultures, we tend to be quite worked up. I know I'm working on this in calming down and being less reactive to things. So, we can all improve on that. So I wanted to know, what made you become wiser and what type of tips could you give people, especially in times of uncertainty like right now, where we're very stressed actually with all kinds of things?
Isabel, you are too kind and generous with your choice of words and calling me wise, I think. Um, Let me step back. So, and I would not, by no standards, I would say that I'm practicing it well. But I truly believe that what helps is let's say meditation, and let's say being mindful about your situations and surroundings. I think that has definitely benefited me. But also I think understand let's say navigating uncertainties is also let's say function of what matters to you, and understanding of what matters to you very deeply, right? And I think if foundationally, if let's say you have let me step back, so can we cut this part? Yeah, just one sec. I think
I
I
think I think what I'm trying to say is that in our cultures, and especially I say Western culture, because
Yeah,
we're very spoiled in a way. We get up, we have our phones, we have everything is working, or most of the time, we'll say. And whenever a
yeah,
little thing goes wrong, we tend to be, very negative and we complain a lot. We're naggers and whiners a little bit. And what we were saying is that you grew up in a place where you can't even breathe because the air is so polluted. And I remember that. I just thought that was something really strong. And, of course, going to India, and I've never been there, it's a very different thing. So the little things that trigger us here, you grew up with much less than we did. So, and you learn how to cope with that. So I'm just curious to see what kind of lessons could we learn in our daily lives to maybe see things a bit differently or take a step back. And you said meditation, which I think is a good idea. So,
yeah.
example this.
Thanks for actually giving this explanation to me. Now I think I can put my thoughts a lot together. I think one thing which has consistently surprised me, and not just in my case, but even the people I have been surrounded with, is that we tend to we do not even understand our own potential and our own limits a lot of the times. And I'll give an example. So I was 17 when my father passed away, and I was brought up in a very traditional setup where, daughters were supposed to, get education, get married, become, let's say, We call in India like bahu, which is, let's say, daughter-in-law. And so I was all the time like, I was taught to behave in a way, and I was taught and formed or shaped in a way that I'll become a, daughter-in-law one day, and I should be, servicing that role efficiently. But when my dad passed away, I had to completely, shift all of it. I had to start earning, and I had to, make funds for my engineering college so that I can pay my tuition fee. And then I started to take the role of primary breadwinner for my family, because fortunately I was in that place because I'm quite uh, reasonably educated in my from my country standard. So I was positioned better to, let's say, be that earning member in my family. So what I was, prepared for, and what I'm doing today is completely different, and my role has completely changed. I am not a daughter-in-law. I'm a single woman, surviving in another country, not with family. And I was supposed to be the homemaker, and I'm doing a breadwinning exercise here. So it's uh, it's because uh, I think one fundamental belief which I developed with this is that now whenever something happens, I get reminded of this experience, that there is some potential which we tend to not see, and because of the way we are either conditioned, or the way we are taught, or the way we are formed, and we don't even know about our own selves, that you would be able to jump into a new situation and maybe not do it well or not do it well, right? I think that's a personal journey, but at least you can survive that journey. And if you survive that journey, you only come out stronger. So this is my most favorite example, how the event was not so fortunate enough. I still, sometimes think that I didn't get enough time with my father. But that's something, this event genuinely shaped me as a person who I am today. So my first half of my life and next half of my life is completely different. What I was prepared for, I'm absolutely not doing anything of that sort. So whenever the situations change, whenever, let's say, you change a location, whenever you change a company, whenever you, let's say, get some life event which impacts you in a big way, whether positive or let's say adverse times, I think that if you can change the plane in which you are operating, for example, like I was, in a mindset of being a homemaker you know to taking the role of my father for my family. I think that's where the shift happened, and that's where I also grew and evolved. I would not say that day one I knew that this is how I'm going to take and lead on this role. But once I understood once I stepped onto the journey, evolved, and it and I came out with a lot more clarity, that now this is going to be my way of life. And that's what I think I would say, that do not underestimate your potential. You can actually go into very unexplored territories. Could be dark, could be bright, but there's a mix of things. But eventually, you will come out brighter for sure. And that's where I think meditation plays a lot big role. I'm meditating since I was, I think, 12 or 11 or 12. So uh, I break it. Sometimes I've like had phases where I was not, but I think I'm practicing for a long time now, and I think those are the moments when you can manifest, uh, manifest much, let's say, bigger, stronger, and better version of yourselves. And definitely, when you play in reality, you will hit obstacles, you will hit hindrances, but you also meet blessings in disguise. So there have been people who were truly strangers to me, but came out and helped me in my journey. But there were also people who were, so related and were toxic to me in my journey. So I think it's a mixed bag, but I think you come out as an evolved individual. So that's my take, or my 2 cents on how we can
Yeah, and as I like to say,
navigate uncertainty.
you never fail in life, you only redirect. So even if maybe at some point you're in a low point and you think, well, what am I going to do? And it's actually just an experience, and it's a learning experience. And you probably need to go through that learning experience to find out that behind that there's going to be something brighter. And we tend to sit at the moment, and that's where you say meditation, and also taking a little bit of distance, which we don't do enough because we stay stuck in that moment where things are not going so well. And there could be so much more if we can go beyond that. And I like thinking about the fact that there's going to be better moments and staying positive that way.
Yeah.
So you basically, when we talked at the very beginning, when we had our meeting online, you talked about the concept, and I really liked it, about future-proof humans. And I thought that was interesting because who would have known what we've been living the last couple of years has been really unexpected, and definitely everyone was completely taken aback. So when you talk about future proof, it's very inspirational. Maybe you can explain a little bit what you mean by that, and what can we do to prepare for the unexpected, and being this person who can take perspective and think forward and all these things.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit related to a previous question, but I think the way I define future proof, I think being future proof is a mindset, and it's not an individual. So it's mindset, and we need to continually, let's say, evolve and work on it, so that we are, let's say, as humans, we are future relevant, and we can navigate complexities, uncertainties, and lot of let's say, so lot of, let's say, inputs we get, right? Because in this information age, uh, I do tend to hear that, of course, pandemic is redefining a lot of things. In fact, it is redefining work, it is redefining purpose. How do you see your purpose? What do you work on? How do you get associated with? What are your moral values, core values, right? Which at no cost you would want to, let's say, negotiate, at no cost you want to breach them. So one thing is that because pandemic has accelerated, um let's say, a self awareness, path to self awareness, or raised big questions, right, which are more fundamental for any human or any person who likes to reason and likes to think. But also what has happened is that, we are living in an age which is where we are changing very fast. In even in last 3 years, right, since pandemic, now we see that there are lot of content creators, and there's a lot of information flowing in. But at the same time, now AI, ML, and technology has picked up this role. So there are conversation on chat GPT and stuff like that. So we are living in an age which is changing faster than ever, and therefore it is very much possible that we are always in the space to catch up to things, catch up to speed. And that's where I think the whole concept of being focused and being, let's say, very true to your own self, and what do you identify as, like where do you draw your identity from. And once those, I think, foundational questions are ready, I think as humans we can navigate any uncertainty and any future situation. So I think, to me, being future proof is a mindset. And if there is a new situation coming your way, are you agile and quick enough to adapt? And are you okay to learn new things? Or are you okay to take up, let's say, a new problem, new challenge, a new way of thinking? Can you unlearn some things which have been, you know, your core? For example, I go back to my own example of when my father died. I had to unlearn that as a daughter, my, responsibility is to be a good daughter-in-law. I was being raised for that, but I had to unlearn all of it. And then I had to learn that how, as a, coming from that setup and mindset, how will I lead on to the role of primary breadwinner for my family, right? So it was a very individualistic, but pandemic has posed such questions to all of us, that do we really want to continue the way we are living and leading? Sustainability agendas have been accelerated for each company, right? So we know now, companies like Patagonia, which have completely donated for planet purposes. So we have those examples now coming up. We have B Corp. We have so many examples which are actually challenging the status quo, which are forcing us to think that we need to change, and the change is at a pace like never before. So I think it's not to be scared of the change, it's more to be embracing the change, learning new things, unlearning old things, and how do we evolve into a more progressive direction. So it, to me, being future proof is a mindset. And once we can, have that mindset, then navigating is very easy. Then it's just task A versus task B. But if the mindset is in the middle, it is very hard to shift from task A to task B.
But I like what you said about unlearn, because we do talk a lot about learning skills, learning how to cope, etc. But also unlearning. I like this concept that when we have a mechanics, in our mindset, automations and beliefs and all that, to be able, it's almost like a disk. If I can use this image, and we don't use disks anymore in computers now, but you have to delete and put something new in it. So
Yeah,
delete the old behaviors and reactions and reprogram for something new. If we could use the IT type of imagery.
yeah, absolutely.
And that can take a little bit of preparation for sure,
Yeah,
because old
yeah,
habits die hard, and we think that, oh yeah, we're ready and we can face change, and when it's there, it's like, oh, I didn't expect
yeah,
that. I think preparing for that right now, and that's why I like the fact we talk about this tonight, about how do you become this future-proof mindset, is preparation, and start already undoing and redo some new things and
yeah.
learn new things already. So tell us a little bit about innovation, and this is your main occupation, and there's innovation that we can do as individuals, and there's also innovations for companies. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think, to me, I think innovation is about solving any problem. So, or improving the current state. And it could be at individual level, it could be products, it could be services. And when it's, let's say, done in a systemic manner, with an ecosystem, and to make any commercial benefit, or let's say a purpose, benefit, you're accelerating your purpose. I think, to me, I think that's the basic definition of innovation. So there are two ways I think innovation can be, let's say, interpreted, right? So one is small, let's say, small slash incremental changes. But when, let's say, compounded and for a longer time, you see that, the stage A to stage B is completely changed, and that itself is a new version of you or product or a service. And the another is which is, let's say, complete disruption, right? So if you're completely disrupting and thinking about the problem statement in a very different way. And we know that a lot of industries have disrupted themselves, right? So for example, the CD industry, now we do not see any compact discs, and to the music apps. So definitely the disruption has happened. And because it's about how do you understand and very clearly define the status, let's say current state. And if the current state needs to shift or evolve to a future state, then how clearly you define it, I think then the solution will lead you into that direction. So for example, right, one of the mega trends, at least as I observe, is all the consumer goods industry, whether it's food, whether it's beverages, whether it's tobacco, the industry I come from, or whether it's devices or anything, right? We all at a mega trend, we all are trying to build better products. And when I say better products, meaning products which are healthier. For example, we started with white sugar, then we went to brown sugar, and now we have zero sugar, right? So products are being invented which are zero sugar, then healthier, right? So from animal protein to a vegan protein, from alcoholic beverages to zero alcohol beverages, right? So we do see all these. So I think as far as we are thinking very concretely about making things better, they would be, let's say, I call them innovation, because you're moving in a progressive direction, and then you can try it, iterate it, and be very empathic to the consumers, to the your users, so that you can make products which are suitable for them and not something which you believe or you want to you enjoy. So I think being very open to listen, uh, being empathic to needs of the consumers, of the users, and trying, testing, learning, redoing, and more trying to trying to fulfill the needs of that consumer or user. And if you take it to an individual, right, I would say the same thing is with the individual. If you're trying to shift, let's say, make a better version of yourself, right? I know it's a very philosophical, but that's an innovation on self. And let's say if you have understood that perhaps trait A and trait B doesn't help me uh, to live in peace, or to grow, or to whatever is your objective, right? Then you can actually understand, how do I make a shift, and what do I need to make the shift. And that, to me, is, I think, around self innovation. But I truly believe that spirituality and meditation is a very you know right path and easy paths. I think these have been laid out, processes are laid out around that, and it does give you a direction to and evolve you as a stronger individual, and on a path which is closer to who you want to be.
Yeah,
But
sounds
it's innovation is a sorry but innovation is an infinite process, right? We are innovating, our past generations have innovated, and coming generations will innovate on things which we will leave the world with. So it's an infinite process. It is like something like you're never done with. And that's, I think, the beauty, and that gives at least me a lot of energy, that yes, there is more to do. And yeah, sorry, Isabel.
No, but that's all very interesting because there's so much around innovation, and a lot of companies are creating amazing products. I just shared the link today, and it's artificial intelligence, and it's going really fast. And I mean, our lives are being transformed as we speak from innovation, and new companies are being created, and it's going very fast. So there's still a lot to learn in this area. So what about the jobs themselves? So it leads me to the jobs. So if we have innovation, and I know jobs, you're like me, you're very interested to know like what's going on in the future, and what type of roles do you think are going to be there?
Good question. I think I may not be able to give you a comprehensive list, but I think top three which come to my mind now are, or maybe three or four. Definitely, one is topmost is around sustainability, and with the ESG standards and multiple standards coming in, I think it's it's going in a direction that we have to build responsible, purposeful businesses at the same time as we make profits. So sustainability is evolving at a very, very high pace on all the three dimensions of environmental or climate friendly, let's say health friendly or healthy products, social around all the diversity, inclusion. How do we include the entire society, and how do we try to, let's say, bridge gaps in inequity and stuff, and also the governance of it, right? So, how do we govern, how do we lead, and how do we, let's say, bring more purposeful and more meaningful businesses forward. So sustainability is definitely going is picking up, and is definitely going to go lot more. Um, and I I envision a time which is perhaps not too far in the future, as that companies will be um, evaluated on their ESG performances. So the stocks have started to, let's say, the ETFs or trade funds, you see an ESG marker on them, but it will become more of a norm than than, let's say, today, which is by exception, or it's starting. But I think I do see a time when we won't be looking at companies just from the financial statements.
Yeah, it will be a
So
full package. It won't be just how much income are you producing, but also what type of people are you recruiting, what kind of environment, and as you say, the sustainability. Are you clean, so to say? So I think it's definitely a wider spectrum of
yeah,
indicators.
and I see that this is going to be a complete industry in itself. I mean, it is still very sizable, and individuals in this career paths are definitely going to gain a lot more. The second, I think, career, or let's say a future role I see is a large, or let's say very large scale use of AI, ML, and deep tech in our day to day processes. So I'll give you an example. So I was presenting in one of the meetings, and after that, Teams has some add-in which actually tested me on the language I use. So was my language inclusive enough, and how many times I repeated a word, or did I take pauses in the conversation. So it's going to be a lot more, and there could be many other use cases. So for example, in content creation, hunting the web, finding that information. So I think AI, ML, there is a lot more scope and lot more depth and breadth of use cases, which I believe will come alive and will become part of our day to day life in making decisions and in taking actions. So yes, AI, ML, and deep tech. Another area I believe it will really explode in the future is I call it human mind management, but it's essentially to do with mind wellness. So let's say, do you, in all of it, right? Spirituality, coaching, retreats, or mental health, days and weeks. And now I think nowadays, I think these exercises are becoming a lot more common. At least we are not there's I mean, still there is some stigma around it, but at least people have started to be a little more empathic towards this, because in this age of so much information, it is very hard to stay focused, and it's very easy to get distracted, get swamped into multiple, let's say, inputs which come to your brain. And I think cleaning that, or uh, you know flossing that flossing your mind will become a real, let's say, lifestyle, or day to day, on if not day to day, but a very regular thing. So I truly believe that, and I envision a future wherein, maybe everyone has a coach to himself or herself, so that they can be directed back to the path if they are diverting. Even coaches will have a coach to themselves, just so that they also stay on track.
So
So I
everyone has a coach tomorrow. Well, but
Yeah, because
it's true. I mean, the world has become more complex, and I think about our decision making like 50 years ago, or not even
yeah,
so far, even 10 years ago. And
yeah,
now the decision making, I mean, you have apps all over, and it's information overload constantly. I mean, between emails and apps and messaging, and so people don't know anymore. They become, dragged in different directions, and you get to the point where, again, tools for decision making, centering, and having a direction. So all these things, are going to be very essential.
yeah. And also the word is becoming a lot more, let's say, lot more superficial, right? Because with all the social media, what you all only know the celebrations of the lives and your friends and your peers and stuff. But what we don't, and therefore it really creates a gap in your understanding with the truth, and the and what is shown to you. And it creates different, visualizations and manifestations in your own mind, which then become very chaotic to manage, right? Because and I think there have been studies, like with the advent of Facebook, etc., in US, the kids were going through, the suicide rates went up, and the kids were going through depression, anxiety. And I think 1 in 4 or 1 in 3 is nowadays dealing with some sort of mental, let's say, situation. It could be sadness, it could be loneliness, it could be depression, it could, I mean, it has then, of course, and we do not understand human mind very well. That's another part of it, right? As we progressed on medical sciences and medicine and that word, I think we understand still different parts of the body, but mind is still where we have a lot of work to do. So I truly think that human mind management is going to be a very big sector or industry, so to say. And I think last, maybe, which just comes to my mind, is that, people are going to space. There are so many startups and so many new companies which are trying to take that space. So what it tells me is that, the innovation is coming at a very fast pace, and so that itself is going to may become the future. So yeah, so I think, but first three definitely, I believe that in next 5 to 10 years are going to grow grow exponentially.
Yeah, and you're right about what you say about the brain, because I tried virtual reality with one of these masks, that you put on, and it just completely put me in a upside down mode. I mean, I didn't even know where I was anymore, because what was in the mask or in the vision and where I was completely confused. And when I took it off, I was like, it took me 5 or 10 minutes to get back to the space where I was at. So being in virtual reality definitely has some impact. And this, if this is where we want to go, and being in a meta somewhere, a universe, it has effects on the brain for sure.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So yeah, that's pretty. That's something we need to think about ahead of time. And how do we manage real life and virtual life, and because we tend to go back and forth right now, and we already are in virtual life when we spend most of our time online, actually now, and even doing business online. So it is going to be a question mark on mental health for sure. So could you share a few tips with us tonight about maybe additional skills or in-demand skills that people could be working on?
I think maybe not tips, but I think perhaps I can give my understanding on skills. So there are two parts of, or two ways I see the skills, right? One is fungible skills, and something which, you know, are agnostic of the sector or domain or expertise you belong to. And these are more around, for example, can you define a problem? Can you solve a problem? Can you create hypothesis? Uh, Leadership, right? Are you empathic too? Are you listening? So definitely, I think these these definitely add excellence to any work you do. And the second part is, of course, non fungible skills, which essentially, come from the domain expertise or area you come from. And non fungible skills are changing very rapidly. So if let's say you, as a operator on a in a production line, you knew how to, let's say, run the production line, but nowadays a robot can do your job, right? So I think those are repeatable, let's say, skills can be, robotized or automated and stuff like that. So you definitely have to keep a pace on to and learning the next new thing, which could be stressful, but I think being aware and taking a note of that would be useful, and learning new technologies, new applications, and new ways of doing your own job. And if something is becoming obsolete, you have to be very cognizant of it, and finding that next path for yourself. But the no, the fungible skills, I think, we are becoming evolved as humans, in our day-to-day interactions and social interactions, and in the end, work, family, or let's say the created ecosystems, you will have to deal with people and humans all across. So the fungible skills do come into play at large. And that's where I think we need to, what at least has helped me is that, if you understand your own self very well, then at least you can, position yourself in that, with that understanding or awareness. And then the people who think alike you will definitely come around, and would be willing to create something better and stronger with you. So, but fungible, I think, skills are going to be very critical. And as I said, non-fungible skills, again, I think we all need to keep a keep an eye on what is coming next and continue to improving.
Exactly. No, I think that's a
Yeah.
very good idea. So, any last tips for our audience tonight?
I think we've talked a lot, Isabel, and thanks for so many relevant questions. I loved reflecting with you on, but I think it's an infinite game, and I believe that we need to be, let's say, build word as more, let's say, purpose driven, more ethical, more morally stronger, because I think we are all change, like, living in a very high pace changing environment. And if we can do things with little more empathy, little more kindness, and little more morality, I think we can take word towards a bit more positive and progressive direction. And I think that we owe to the generations which are yet to come.
Yeah, and I guess as a closing, as AI becomes stronger, artificial intelligence and automation, the more we're going towards tech, the more we should hang on to actually what humanity is really about and become actually stronger humans.
Yeah.
I think that's what it comes down to: stronger, more prepared, and more thoughtful.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's great talking to you. And again, this was live. So it's really amazing because I asked you a lot of questions and I think it was a fantastic interview. And this is a part of being live is that sometimes we have to think a little bit and it's still okay. Uh, and I want to thank you again for making the time and sharing your thoughts because I really believe that you have some very interesting points and a lot of people can gain from that probably.
Thank you, Isabel. Pleasure is mine.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Bye.